This is the Ballin' Out Podcast, your weekly breakdown of Red Raider basketball from Double T 97.3 and Double T Sports Network.com.
Welcome into another episode of the Gaslighters Podcast. You, Choice Woodman with a very cool dance. I'm Clint Scott. Thank you for joining us again as we take a look at Red Raider basketball. And it's hard to believe the regular season finale is here, and we'll certainly talk about that matchup with Arizona State in the last game you just have at Colorado. But the bigger conversation is what's right around the corner, as it's the Big 12 tournament. The women's turn was this week. It's the men's turn in Kansas City next week. We'll go through possible matchups and most likely where you will be seated. But let's start first. Choice, I don't know if you know this, but JT Toppin is really good at basketball.
First off, I'm seated right here. And secondly, yes, he is. There's a dad joke.
Hey-o.
Yeah, JT Toppin, to me, is, when I look at the list of candidates for the Big 12 Player of the Year, there's a lot of good players, but I don't think there's anybody that's exceeded JT Toppin. I think he should be your Big 12 Player of the Year. And I think his game in the last 3 weeks has elevated to that point. I think that when you see a guy that can put up 40 points and 15 rebounds in a game multiple times, or 30 points and 15 several times, he's putting up certain stats or numbers that haven't been done since Kevin Durant and Blake Griffin were around. This guy has been excellent. And I think while JT Toppin is extremely good and worthy of being talked about as a first-team All-American, which is very rare air, I think he is very good in this system right now. I'm not saying that he's not great individually, because his jump hook is as good as you can find in college basketball anywhere. But because he has such good shooters and good distributors around him, JT Toppin is able to elevate his game to an elite level.
You ever seen, like whales that have... Have you ever seen whales?
I've seen whales.
That have like the smaller fish that come and just like pick stuff off of them, or like rhinos have birds.
Sure.
That they'll just... Crocodiles will let some birds do that.
Sure.
Just snap on them. I'm forgetting what that pairing in the wild is called. I'm going to use the word cohesive.
We'll call it that.
But that's going to bother me. All right, stop the podcast. I got to go Google something.
Mutually exclusive.
No.
Mutually beneficial.
Whatever it is, they don't like...
Friends with benefits.
They don't like to put a label on it when it's in the wild. That is kind of the relationship you have between JT Toppin and as many three-point shooters as you have, because having guys that can hit at a tremendous rate from the outside is going to help him. But to me, even more so, he's going to help open up those three-point shooters, because he's such a threat to score inside. And sometimes it turns just into get him the ball and... Symbiotic relationship. That's what you have between JT Toppin and your outside shooters. Josh, edit this out and make it where I just came in with that and said that the right way. And also edit this part out where I'm telling you to do stuff.
Keep it all. Keep it all.
I'm just kidding. No, but that's what you have between JT Toppin and your outside shooters, where they both benefit from each other and make each other better and more dangerous, because you can't just focus on one thing defensively.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what you see, and that's what makes this offense one of the best, truly one of the best offenses in the country. We like to speak in hyperbole a lot, and we like to overstate things at times, but you've seen it consistently this year, how good this offense is for Texas Tech, and I think it is a true inside-out game. You don't really have weaknesses with the offense, and I guess your one weakness, if you're going to call it a weakness, is if JT Toppin or your inside game, if you get double foul trouble with Toppin and Federico, that's when your team gets weak. So if you can keep those two, one of those two on the floor, obviously Toppin more often, then I think this team is as well-rounded as you're going to find in the NCAA tournament coming up in a few weeks.
We don't have to do a deep dive, but you will in the season with Arizona State. And the biggest thing is, well, if you take care of business, you are the 2 seed in the Big 12 tournament. Still a chance you could be the 3 seed. That's as low as you could be. Either way, you locked up a double bye. By the way, a couple of things from that game against Colorado, actually, real quick. You had possibly the play of the year with Elijah Hawkins behind the back, saving the ball to Darian Williams.
So fun.
Quick little pass there, Chance McMillan for a wide open three. That was fun. You also set a program record that now you're breaking even more for most threes made in a year. You broke your record last year.
Yeah.
It was 289. Kerwin Walton hit 290, and I think you hit 4 more after that. But the last time you saw Arizona State, just to throw this out, speaking of one of those great JT Toppin performances,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
was the double overtime thriller against the Sun Devils that both teams ended up with over 100 points when it was all said and done. Any chance we get a little bit of that over in the Sun Devils' house?
Well, Sun Devils are one less player than they were that day, and that was one of their best players. Sometimes you get addition by subtraction in those moments if you've got a cancer in the locker room. I don't know. I would say
the results say they had subtraction by subtraction.
Yeah, I would say so. Now, to me, Clint, I think that was a good thing that happened, because you can absolutely be overlooking this game as the last regular season game and playing a bottom 2 team in your league if that didn't happen in Lubbock. I think they have every bit of Tech's attention, which will, in my mind, lead to a Texas Tech victory. I think as we record this, we don't have a line out on that game, but I would guess you're going to see somewhere in the range of a 8 to 10 point line.
I said 9.5.
8.5 is where I would say.
But only because I was going to say 10.5, and Dr. Mike Gustafson said it first, and I didn't want to be the same.
And I think Tech will cover that line too. Whatever it is, around 10-ish, I think you will win this game by double digits.
Sean Connery's favorite sport.
I knew you were going to go there. More dad jokes.
Too much racket choice.
More dad jokes. But, yeah, this is not a game that I worry just a whole lot about. Playing on the road in the Big 12, always a difficult thing. Not been a bad thing for Texas Tech this year. Unbelievable. 6-2 in Big 12 play on the 7-2 at this point in Big 12 games. So away from Lubbock. So I think this is a game you take care of business in and then turn the page towards the Big 12 tournament.
Do you know what Sean Connery's favorite
Would
thing
you
about...
get to the dang basketball?
You know what Sean Connery's favorite thing about finances are?
What is it, Clint?
Bonds. Stocks and bonds. All right, let's go to possible seeding for the Big 12 tournament. Did you already look at this?
Did you see that? All of our listeners just dropped off right there. They just went away.
I know what you're talking about. I have a license to thrill. Did you already look at this and ruin my little miniature pop quiz for you?
No, I was actually looking at this.
Perfect. Do you know of the 16 seeds in the Big 12, what 4 are already locked?
I know number 1 and number 16.
Bang, bang.
Houston and Colorado are locked into their spots.
Uh-huh.
I know this from the broadcast the other night.
Guess that seed.
Iowa State's locked because of where they are.
At the 5 seed, correct.
And then there's one more that's
There's
locked.
one more.
See if I can see through your paper there. Let's go with Kansas State.
We were looking for your next opponent, Arizona State, locked in at the
Arizona
15 seed.
That's what I said.
As I run through this, Houston obviously locked in as the 1 seed as they, in the end, ran away with the conference. They have a chance on Saturday to go 19-1. They've already set a conference record for most wins in a conference season. Now, to be fair, they're also playing in the first 20-game season, but still 18-1.
Which, by the way,
crazy.
Only 20-game season.
Only.
Yeah, I think I think it is pretty well beyond a rumor at this point. They're going to go back to 18 games next year.
Oh, interesting.
Which is, I didn't think they would do that because of the money that's coming in from all of the extra games you're getting in conference play. But it seems like the coaches think this is
when you have Kelvin Sampson and Bill Self and Scott Drew whining about it, the heavy hitters in the conference, people will listen.
Yep.
Obviously, you have them, though, locked in as the 1 seed. Texas, as you mentioned, they can only go as low as the 3 seed, but you're still trying to figure out 2, 3, 4 from Texas Tech, Arizona, and BYU.
Yeah.
As you said, Iowa State is locked in to the 5 seed, and then you go to the 6 through 10 seed, which could be any sort of matchup seeding between Kansas, Baylor, TCU, West Virginia, and Kansas State. And then you go to the 11 and 12 spot between Cincinnati and Utah. And then your bottom 4 are for sure UCF, Oklahoma State, and as we mentioned, Arizona State locked in at the 15 seed, Colorado locked in at the 16 seed. So a lot of moving parts still, and you're in the first year of a double bye tournament. The good thing is you already have that. If you go off of projections, it would wind up, and this is just like favorites and stuff like that, it would wind up like this on your part of the bracket. Kansas State as the 10, Arizona State as the 15. Winner of that would go on to the 7 seed against Baylor, and they do have you projection-wise as the 2 seed. I wouldn't be upset seeing Baylor in the Big 12 tournament. I think that would be fun.
I think it'd be fun. Of the other ones that get the single bye, I don't know that they're the team I would pick.
Yeah, your single buys projection
I don't know.
is Iowa State obviously at the 5, KU at the 6, Baylor at the 7, and then TCU at the 8 seed.
Yeah, I guess Baylor's as good of a matchup as any out of that grouping. Obviously, you've already lost to TCU. Kansas is up and down, but I think you are a better team than them. So I guess if it ends up being Baylor, that's fine. You're not going to get knocked for a loss to Baylor. I think what Texas Tech's playing for here, obviously, is a 2 seed.
Yeah, no doubt.
If you win on Saturday, it completely locks in a 3 seed against Arizona State. I don't know that you can suffer 2 losses in a row, meaning loss to Arizona State and then a first-round loss in the Big 12 tournament. I think you're close to a lock for a 3 seed. You might even be able to suffer 2 losses in a row, but a win on Saturday locks up the 3 seed for sure. If you win on Saturday and then win a game in the Big 12 tournament, I think you're getting really close to that 2 seed.
So part of this conversation is obviously what's going to happen around you.
Sure it is.
St. John's is a huge wild card in this.
Yes, they are.
Any SEC team with a pulse is a wild card on this, and then Houston winning the conference is going to take away one of those 8 spots, and they should be a 1 seed unless they just get screwed.
But Iowa State's also the wild card right there.
But that's where I wanted to go. So, like, you go into that TCU loss you suffered, and it was like, well, there went the route of a 2 seed, and Iowa State helped you out a little bit, and then you picked up a big win. And even in a loss, you looked good against Houston. And so now you're right back in that conversation. And I agree. You win Arizona State. I do think you're for sure a 3 seed. I'm kind of in the camp that I think you could lose back-to-back games and you wouldn't get dinged.
Right, but I think
as a 3 seed. But you have a route to a 2 seed, but you also would not turn down a little bit of help.
Sure.
And Iowa State did that.
I think you say could. I think you put zero shadow of doubt in the mind of the committee if you win on Saturday. If you win one game, one of your next 2 games essentially, then I think there's nothing to worry about. I think you're basically 98% a 3 seed lock right now.
98 degrees.
Nick Lachey.
Perfect.
So yeah, I'm not really worried about that. Iowa State's the other team I think you're fighting from the Big 12 for a 2 seed.
Yeah.
Right there. They're in that conversation as well. So that's where the Big 12 tournament could factor into that conversation.
Which is funny. That's how bad of a non-conference resume Arizona has.
Yeah.
And had. And it's really what's been surprising why they took off in Big 12 play. Usually you see it as the opposite.
Right.
And you can look to most of like your mid-range conference teams that did exactly that. But Arizona finally figured some things out. But they did so much damage, even though they're right up there in the top 4, and Iowa State's locked in at the 5. And you can say the same thing about BYU, who's been arguably the hottest team in the back half of Big 12 play.
Yep.
They won't be a 2 seed. Arizona won't be a 2 seed, but Iowa State had such a good non-conference resume. And then I also think that they get a little bit of credit for, even though injuries happen to everybody, I think we'd be lying to ourselves if we didn't say the committee didn't take that into account, just like they would take that into account to your loss to Houston in Lubbock because of who all you were missing and only being able to play with 6 guys from your usual rotation.
Yeah.
But Iowa State still has had a couple of real non-helpful losses, and I think you have jumped them in that conversation, but they're still there.
Yeah.
As far as who can sneak into that 2 seed line.
No doubt. No doubt.
Anyways, you can hear Saturday's matchup on Double T 97.3. That is an 8:30 start for pregame coverage. Another late night in the state of Arizona. Good times. Drink your energy drinks, drink your coffee. And, hey, join us again next week for another episode of the Gaslighters Podcast. See you then.
This is the Ballin' Out Podcast, your weekly breakdown of Red Raider basketball from Double T 97.3 and Double T Sports Network.com.